Ryan's kind of perpetually highly publicizing his bromances, to trying to convince the public that these bromances are perfectly normal. And we're not really asking for that convincing, but Hugh Jackman has been plagued with rumors of homosexuality.
Blake Lively is in full meltdown mode after Ryan Reynolds single-handedly wrecked his own career and made her lawsuit look even worse. If Justin Baldoni hadn't stepped in, people might still believe they were Hollywood's perfect power couple.
Anyways, people really began upping the questioning of his sexuality.
Now, with rumors swirling about Ryan's sexuality, it's obvious something has been off with their relationship from the start.
Hugh Jackman opted to kiss his male co-star throughout this production, even though in the original screenplay there was no kiss between the male stars.
Blake has been doing everything she can to keep their image intact, hiring ex-CIA officials for crisis PR, threatening creators, just trying to control the chaos.
My viewpoint is Blake Lively has nothing to do with what is happening. Her husband has come undone.
But then comes Ryan, her ever-charming husband, who shows up and wrecks all her efforts. Every time she's in a PR disaster, he takes the comedy route, and this time, he took it up a notch by joking about it on SNL.
How's it going?
Great. Why? What have you heard?
Of course, he cracked his usual "I'm fine" jokes, acting like their public meltdown isn't obvious. Does he really think people are too dumb to see through this?
Joking about how you and your wife essentially tried to leverage by accusing him of sexual harassment.
Every time Blake faces bad press, Ryan is right there with a joke to distract from their crumbling lives. Forget the lawsuit. Why not just laugh through the disaster and pretend everything's perfect?
She appeared at her Simple Favor 2 premiere, and people are noting that she seems increasingly uncomfortable and anxious, and maybe it really is just a lot for her to deal with.
And they didn't stop there. Instead of just acting happy, they made sure the paparazzi caught every perfectly staged "we're so in love" moment. The media ate it up, while behind closed doors, it's a completely different story.
Hugh Jackman, Wolverine, will be deposed, and I suspect that might be making Ryan Reynolds extremely nervous, and I'll tell you why.
Now, let's talk about how Ryan just ruined his career. This one is wild. It's about his romances.
If he was gay, fine, he would say he's gay. It has gotten so out of whack that they say it's stupid, and yet it's annoying because it's not true.
That's right. So you as an actor, you can't be able to sing, dance, and be straight.
Right. Well, it's just ridiculous.
This guy never stops reminding people how deep his connection is with Hugh Jackman. Every time they're together, the bromance talk resurfaces like we haven't heard it 1,000 times before.
Ryan Reynolds' bromances, his various bromances over the years. We've talked about him and Jake Gyllenhaal, and obviously this has been a bromance that has been very much thrown in the public's face.
At this point, it's like Ryan is trying way too hard to prove something. We get it, you're friends with Hugh Jackman. No need to turn it into a full-blown public service announcement.
Ryan's kind of perpetually highly publicizing his bromances is something that I find to be quite strange, right? Mostly because he's a 48-year-old man.
And of course, Candace Owens had to weigh in. She couldn't understand why Ryan keeps obsessing over defending his bromance, constantly reminding everyone how normal it is for guys to hang out without it being a big deal.
He has 4 kids, and he seems to dedicate a lot of time and resources, like financial resources, to trying to convince the public that these bromances are perfectly normal. And we're not really asking for that convincing.
She called him out for his desperate need for validation, questioning why he feels the need to prove his masculinity through his friendships with male co-stars.
And we're not really asking for that convincing. Like, I don't need people to convince me that guys can hang out with one another, but he feels like he has to make that effort. So he's like, nothing's weird here, nothing's weird. Bromances are so normal. I mean, notoriously, that's the reason why he flew out Liz Plank, Justin Baldoni's podcast partner.
Like, why does he keep shoving it in our faces? We get it. But why does it seem like he's always trying to convince us that he's Hollywood's ultimate straight guy? Is he hiding something? the more he pushes it, the more suspicious it seems.
If you find out that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Hefner have a relationship or something, it does change significantly. It tells you about the mindset. I mean, there's so many things that are relevant for the jury to understand about what was going on in these people's lives.
It makes you wonder, what's really going on with Ryan's public persona? He can't stop talking about his bromance with Jackman, making sure everyone knows it's totally straight. But why keep saying it? It's not the 90s anymore. Nobody even questions this stuff. Yet Ryan keeps over-explaining.
His deposition will likely be crucial. They are not leaving any stone unturned.
So, what's the real answer? Here it is, Hugh Jackman, the beloved Wolverine, is now tangled in a legal mess that's bigger than just X-Men action scenes. During the filming of It Ends With Us, Jackman played more than just an on-screen role.
Hugh Jackman was also in the now infamously cringe It Ends With Us promotional skit that had nothing to do with promoting the movie, which was about domestic violence, where Ryan directed it and he brought in his mom and Blake was in the background. We learned that.
Oh no, Jackman, ever the performer, took things further behind the scenes. He even participated in a bizarre promotional skit that, in hindsight, was nothing more than a poorly thought-out attempt to mock Justin Baldoni.
He also brought in his best friend because he just wanted a little bit of A-list power there. And when you're really obviously trying to be a high school bully, you want to be like, we're the cool.
But this wasn't just a random stunt. Jackman's involvement brought a whole new level of celebrity drama to an already explosive situation, especially with the legal implications now coming to light.
What better way to make him uncomfortable than to promote his movie, him being Justin Baldoni's movie, and bring in an A-lister to mock him, and so Hugh Hefner plays himself.
What makes this even messier is the timeline. It Ends With Us was being filmed at the same time as Deadpool, another project starring Ryan Reynolds. And, of course, Ryan is deeply connected to both movies.
It's not every day a guy gets to interview the love interest of his best friend's wife, and the guy trying to replace Ryan as a husband, and me as his best mate.
Holy shit.
What the hell are you doing messing with my best buddy's wife?
Sir, I have no idea what's happening.
It's like a tangled web of Hollywood egos and chaos. Jackman, despite his usual nice guy image, is now caught in a scandal he probably never saw coming.
Hugh Hefner then appeared at the It Ends With Us premiere. Again, not his movie. Kind of weird that he's hitting the red carpet with them. He obviously knows what is going on, what would that conversation have been on the way to the premiere.
To make matters worse, things escalated when Jackman and Reynolds mocked Baldoni during promo events. Now, footage of their little stunt has become a key piece of evidence in a legal drama.
So he was one of the unnamed dragons, if you will, in all of this. And it looks like for that, he is being awarded for his contributions with a deposition. Right?
Now, the actor who once made us laugh as a mutant superhero is preparing for a deposition where he'll have to testify about his behavior during the filming of both It Ends With Us and Deadpool. This feels more like a bad reality show than a legal case involving a respected Hollywood star.
So romance is almost this permission for men to connect and to show love to each other, because it's like
In September 2023, Jackman announced his separation from his wife of 27 years, Deborah Lee Furness. That revelation just so happened to coincide with the ongoing legal mess surrounding It Ends With Us and the Deadpool franchise.
That was in the midst of the principal filming for Deadpool and Wolverine, which got abruptly paused in that September due to the SAG-AFTRA strike.
It's almost as if Hollywood rolled out a red carpet for him to step into the spotlight in the most dramatic way possible. But instead of sympathy, his divorce reignited old speculation about his sexuality, rumors that have followed him for years.
But Hugh Jackman has been plagued with rumors of homosexuality throughout his entire career. It has been speculated for a host of reasons. Some fair, some not. Some people just never really bought into him at the peak of his career.
With his separation and the legal drama surrounding It Ends With Us, the timing was too perfect for some to ignore. His divorce fueled renewed discussions about his personal life and how it intertwined with his Hollywood projects.
This is quite strange. He was 28 years old when they got married. She was 41 years old. So many people were saying right off the bat, no. This guy is using her as a beard, which is the term that people use when you're in like one of these cover marriages.
People started connecting the dots. Jackman's film roles, his personal life, and long-standing industry gossip. And with Reynolds himself facing similar rumors over the years, their close friendship only added more intrigue to the narrative.
All of these gay jokes, but nobody's actually asking him to do that. Not the gay community or the heterosexual community.
The relationship between Reynolds and Jackman has always fascinated the public, mainly due to their over-the-top bromance. The media eats it up, and Reynolds plays into it. But during Deadpool and It Ends With Us, their dynamic took on a more serious tone, especially with Jackman's increasing involvement in the Baldoni controversy.
Like, who needed this justification paid for to bring in an expert to tell you that guys can go out to dinner and it's totally chill? It's a weird thing for them to be trying to constantly tell.
At this point, it almost feels like their playful teasing on social media was just a cover for the real tension brewing behind the scenes. Jackman, who had always been the composed Hollywood veteran, was now entangled in legal claims, public feuds, and personal turmoil.
You can see the Daily Mail, it says, surprising new twist in Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni legal battle as Hugh Jackman is pulled into the saga. And then it tells us that according to a source, Hugh Jackman is going to be deposed before the trial because Baldoni's legal team wants to get the full scope of Reynolds' conduct.
His interactions with Reynolds, once seen as lighthearted and fun, now looked like an attempt to control a narrative that was slipping away. The two men, known for their comedic online exchanges, were suddenly facing real-world consequences.
They're in this bromance at the time of the separation of his wife, and you just wonder if that's also partially the reason why Blake's team is adamant that they need this AEO determination.
But then, the AEO designation entered the mix. This legal term, attorney's eyes only, became a major point of contention between Blake Lively's team and Justin Baldoni's. Essentially, it's a way to keep certain sensitive documents out of public view.
Right? They want the judge to agree to an attorney's eyes only designation to protect, as they term it, highly confidential information that could destroy the careers of the third-party people that are involved.
And why was this so important? Because the evidence in question was allegedly so damaging that it could ruin the careers of certain individuals involved. Lively's team fought hard to keep it under wraps, but the judge wasn't having it.
Okay, so third party, meaning they're not listed in this lawsuit as plaintiffs or defendants, but they're third parties, and they're going to get deposed, and we're going to get to subpoena some information, and they're going like, we need this AEO designation because their careers would be ruined if the public found something out about them.
Instead, a limited version of the AEO designation was approved. This meant that if attorneys disagreed on whether something should be kept private, they had to argue their case before a judge. But this raised an even bigger question. What could be so damaging that it sparked an entire legal battle just to keep it out of public view?
It just makes you ask what truth could be so poisonous to someone's career that if revealed it would be over.
The fact that the court didn't give Lively's team full control over what could be hidden only fueled speculation. If these documents contain information that could ruin careers, what exactly is in them? Emails? Texts? Confidential recordings? The secrecy surrounding this case suggests there's something far bigger at play than anyone initially thought.
It would have to be that in some manner or another, that person is a fraud, right? In some manner or another, that person is a fraud. So whether it's how they're publicly presenting their sexuality, whether it's how they're publicly presenting their brand, a la Taylor Swift, I'm a nice girl, and then you find out she's actually a really mean girl.
The idea that these files might hold Hollywood's darkest secrets is almost too big to ignore. When you consider the key players, Reynolds, Lively, Baldoni, and now Jackman, you start to wonder just how deep this rabbit hole goes. What is lurking in those attorney's eyes only files that has everyone so desperate to keep them sealed?
These people, because you think they're telling you the truth, and you would just be shocked by that. So I'll tell you, Judge Lehman has reached a decision about that designation.
And then there's the growing concern about the potential fallout. If Blake Lively is willing to fight this hard to keep things confidential, what does she know that the public doesn't? The AEO designation might only be the tip of the iceberg. If these documents contain information that could take down more than one Hollywood career, the entire industry might be in for a reckoning.
So Blake Lively's team was like, we want to be able to decide by ourselves as attorneys that this text message between Taylor and Blake Lively is AEO, which means no one else can see it but the attorneys.
And here's where things take an even wilder turn, because some sources are saying the AEO designation is protecting private conversations between Blake Lively and none other than Taylor Swift. Yes, you read that right. The speculation? That these two powerhouses have been exchanging messages about how to sabotage Justin Baldoni.
And we don't need to go to the judge's chambers to duke that out. It's like if we say it is, you just got to go with us. Essentially, they become their own judges.
If that's true, this isn't just a Hollywood scandal. It's a career-ending nuclear bomb. We're not talking about petty gossip. We're talking about deliberate coordination, power plays, and PR manipulation on a scale we haven't seen before.
And obviously, Justin Baldoni's team said, no, we don't want that. We just want this to be like a limited scope, confidentiality agreement, and the court protective order, the standard court protective order, should suffice.
What could these texts reveal? First, they could show a targeted effort to destroy Baldoni's reputation, a carefully orchestrated smear campaign designed to discredit him in the public eye. Blake Lively, already a major industry player, allegedly teaming up with Taylor Swift to push a calculated agenda? The question isn't if they were trying to damage Baldoni, it's how far they were willing to go.
Well, Judge Lehman came back with a decision to allow a limited AEO, which I think is exactly what Justin Baldoni's team was asking for. Certainly not what Blake's team wanted, because the judge will still be involved. If the attorneys disagree on that designation, then they're going to have to go to the judge and they're going to have to duke it out and argue that this does not deserve to be attorneys' eyes only.
If these messages contain direct evidence of Lively and Swift strategizing ways to take Baldoni down, we're looking at a full-scale PR war happening behind the scenes. The media thrives on scandal, but if these texts ever see the light of day, this will become something Hollywood has never faced before.
Other than information that is directly relevant to the truth or falsity of any allegation in the complaints in this case. And I think D is where it's going to get choppy in the judge's chambers. What happens if there's a text message? Like I said, Taylor Swift was just coming out of a relationship with Joe Alwyn. Hugh Hefner was just coming out of this relationship with Deborah Furness. They're talking to their quote-unquote best friends. What if it comes out that, I don't know, I'm making this text up completely, but...
And let's be honest, if it turns out that Lively and Swift were caught red-handed plotting against Baldoni, the fallout will be catastrophic. Lively, who has spent years cultivating a girl-next-door image, could suddenly be seen as a Hollywood mastermind playing dirty behind the scenes. And Swift, who has built her career on her carefully controlled public persona, could find herself in the biggest controversy of her life.
Taylor Swift texts Blake Lively and says, I'll give you a connection. You can burn Justin Baldoni with my dragon fire like I did to Joe Alwyn.
Both of these women have spent their careers meticulously shaping their public images. But if this speculation proves true, everything they've built could come crashing down. Because at this point, it's not just about defending their reputations. It's about proving they weren't pulling the strings behind the scenes to take down another Hollywood star.
Blake's team is going to argue that's ruinous to Taylor Swift's career, and then you're going to have Brian Friedman in the chambers like, excuse me, this is unbelievably relevant.
But the broader implications are even more alarming. If these communications truly reveal Blake Lively's motivations, then this entire case takes on a new meaning. Lively has positioned herself as the victim, claiming Justin Baldoni harassed her during the filming of It Ends With Us. Asterisk, but if these texts expose something more sinister, like a coordinated effort to take Baldoni down, it would completely dismantle her entire narrative.
These attorneys are not going to agree on what's relevant to the case, because I tend to agree with Brian Friedman. It's all relevant. if you find out that Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Hefner have a relationship or something, it does change significantly. It tells you about the mindset. I mean, there's so many things that are relevant for the jury to understand about.
Suddenly, she wouldn't be the wronged party she claims to be. Instead, she'd be exposed as someone manipulating the media, orchestrating a smear campaign to protect her and Ryan Reynolds' reputations. This would flip the entire case on its head, especially considering how much public perception influences high-profile legal battles. If Lively and Swift really masterminded this, the fallout could be far more devastating than anyone imagined. Speaking of troubling implications, let's talk about the allegations against Ryan Reynolds, particularly his unsettling incident with Olivia Wilde. This isn't just forgotten Hollywood gossip. It's an incident that raises serious red flags about Reynolds' behavior.
Maybe that's how Taylor Swift felt. So I think it's going to get dicey there. We're going to see what exactly they decide, what exactly the judge agrees to. I think we'll piece by piece. The trial is not supposed to be until 2026 March.
Reynolds recently shared a story from the set of The Change-Up where, according to him, he found himself in an extremely awkward situation. He described how, during a scene, Olivia Wilde took his hands and placed them on her breasts. Yes, you read that correctly. Reynolds, seemingly caught off guard, admitted that he had no idea how to react. He fumbled through the scene, later reflecting that his actions were questionable at best. He even acknowledged that there's a fine line between acting and inappropriate behavior, a comment that, in retrospect, sounds more concerning than reassuring.
I'll also show you this really quickly on page 9 of the judge's decision. He writes, before the parties make an AEO designation, the protective order places on them the burden of determining that the information is not directly relevant to an allegation in the plea.
Let's break this down. What Reynolds described wasn't just an uncomfortable moment on set. It was a situation that blurred the line between what's acceptable and what isn't. It wasn't just awkwardness between co-stars. It was something that could have easily crossed into inappropriate territory.
I think right now, if I'm Blake's team, I'm thinking about folding. I'm like, I'm not really comfortable with this, and I don't feel confident about this.
The bigger issue? Reynolds' tendency to downplay situations like this. Instead of addressing the gravity of the moment, he turned it into a joke, just like he does with many of the controversies surrounding him. But at what point does his humor stop being a deflection and start revealing a pattern? And that's why, when you connect the dots, his behavior with Wilde, his questionable PR tactics, and the ongoing legal battles, it becomes clear that the scrutiny around Reynolds isn't going away. If anything, it's getting louder. And as the public demands transparency, the pressure is mounting for Reynolds to finally confront the cracks in the carefully curated persona he's built. As more details unfold, make sure to stay updated. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video.